Hey everyone, how's it going? Today's video is sponsored by Audible. Now you see all these books? These are some of my favorite Star Wars books here. And these can be found on audible.com and more. So if you're on the go, you don't have much time to sit down and read, or you're just doing something and you want to be a little more productive, Audible is for you. So go to the link down below right now. The first month is free, and then after that, once you start paying, you get a free token. That token allows you to get one free audiobook every single month for life. You get to keep it. I like Audible because whenever I'm doing stuff that doesn't allow me to sit down and crack open a book, I can listen to it. Not only that, but it also is such high production. So all these Star Wars ones, and they got more than just Star Wars, mind you. All these Star Wars ones are actually officially licensed by Lucasfilm. And the production value, as I said, is amazing. It's literally like watching a movie, but without the picture, so you're just hearing it. There is voice acting, there are sound effects, there's officially licensed Star Wars music with John Williams and more. The whole thing is really a high budget production, and you're getting all of it at your disposal. Go get your free copy right now of Star Wars Dark Lord, The Rise of Darth Vader. I have a feeling a lot of the stuff in that audiobook is going to be in the Kenobi series. It takes place in the same timeline, and there's a lot of really interesting things. So go check the link in the description, get your free month, or text Star Wars Theory to 500 500 right now. That's Star Wars Theory to 500 500. So with all that said, thanks for listening and enjoy the video.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to another Versus Battle Fantasy Battle Theory video. In today's video, we will be going back to my old Versus series and putting Ahsoka against Luke Skywalker. Now recently, Dave said something that sparked a lot of debate within the fandom, and today's video is going to go into great detail in canon to try to analyze what exactly would happen if these two characters fought. Now, in order to have a successful fantasy battle, we need to understand more than just, these characters' lightsaber styles, for example. We need to really understand their history with the Force, their power, their potential, and most of all, their fighting and overall psychology, which is extremely important. First off, let's begin with Ahsoka. Okay, so she used two lightsabers, and during the Clone Wars, she was considered a master of Makashi, which most masters found unbelievable for such a young student. She later morphed this into a variation of the sixth form, Nieman, which was called Jar-Kai. Now, Jar-Kai was originally in its historical story adopted by Darksiders of a clan called Legions of Leto. Ahsoka was super proficient at using dual blades, one being a normal length blade and the other a shoto for closer attacks. This made her very fast and very lethal. Now, there were a few drawbacks with this form. And mind you, we're going to be talking about Ahsoka in The Mandalorian against Luke in The Mandalorian, not little kid Ahsoka versus Luke in The Mandalorian. So obviously with two hands full of sabers, you could never do one double-handed power attack. This made stronger attacks impossible, which could also be used to knock an opponent's saber out of their hands, and the overall advantages of overpowering your opponent after putting them in a weak position, like Luke did to Vader in Return of the Jedi. This also prevents them from blocking in a more powerful stance, so if lightning were to be deflected, let's say, and should it be as powerful as Palpatine's, then two-handed would be much weaker than a one-handed block, like what Mace Windu was doing when he gripped it with two hands. Now, the only exception to this is for those who are aided by enhanced cybernetics, like Vader or Grievous, or in general, if you're Rey. Anakin Skywalker once commented on studying dual blade combat in his copy of The Jedi Path. Now, The Jedi Path is a book that goes over a whole bunch of Jedi disciplines and rules, and it's sort of passed on between many different Jedi through the ages, and they leave their notes in there, and it's kind of a fun thing. Anakin will write something, and then Ahsoka will cross it out and be like, "No way, Master, like that's not how it's supposed to be," signed Snips, and then later Yoda will say something, or Qui-Gon, or Obi-Wan. It's a fun little book to read from. And in that book, there was an excerpt on the side where Anakin wrote in his notes, "I'm working on this, mostly as an exercise in control. I doubt I will ever need to use it." So Anakin was actually working on using a dual blade, and we can see this in Episode 2 Attack of the Clones, when he actually did end up needing to use it. And as we saw, he wasn't really all that great at least against Dooku, because that second blade just kind of got halved in a moment or so. So that's not the only drawback of two-handed sabers. The main issue is the practitioner's abilities are so focused on wielding two blades proficiently, not to slice their own arm off, that their powers are then diminished when it comes to the Force. Their focus is diverted far too much on the blades. The Force does so much more than just push, pull, or choke. It is used in many ways that you may never see, like heightening your reflexes, your senses, speed, and mental focus, seeing things before they happen. The Force guides all fighters and favors those who use more of it when it's not bound up for lightsaber wielding. This is why Sidious was so powerful. He didn't even care to use a lightsaber. He only used one to mock the Jedi. Now, if a practitioner of Jar Kai lost one of their blades, they weren't all that comfortable with just one blade. And this, of course, can be remedied over time, where a user like Dooku, for example, would absolutely shine with one hand. Now with Luke Skywalker, he would have to be wary of the speed of battle, something that would probably require him to use more of the Force to perceive the attacks quicker than if just going against one blade, because, well, now you got two coming at you. This would bind up both of their Force abilities, Luke's in focusing on speed, and Ahsoka on focusing on wielding her two sabers. Ahsoka is more experienced in the Force than Luke is. Luke is around the age of 29 in The Mandalorian, whereas Ahsoka is about 45 during this time. Ahsoka has trained amongst the galaxy's greatest fighters, both in the light and dark sides of the Force. Her knowledge and overall abilities have had more time to develop. She's gotten to learn more of the Force as well in this time. The issue Jar Kai users have with not being comfortable with just one saber is they lose one of their two. Probably, has been mastered at this point for Ahsoka. She most likely can duel just fine with one saber, should one be disarmed. So on to Luke. Well, Luke uses many different styles over the years, just like most Jedi do, including Ahsoka, but their main style always remains to be the most evident. And Luke, just like dear old dad, uses Form 5, Dem So. This is a much more of an aggressive, offensive type of attack compared to, let's say, Kenobi's Surisu, which is primarily on defense only, waiting for an opening, then striking. This form was more pushy, in the sense that the user would constantly attack the opponent, rarely on the offensive. A great example of this was anytime Anakin fought or Luke against Vader in their final moments when Luke used a bit of the dark side. Now what's funny enough is the variant of Form 5, the other half of it, is actually focused on blocking. So it's quite an interesting form how you can alter one little variation of the style and you get these two drastically different styles within the same lightsaber fighting style, the fifth form. Now Luke's Form 5 demanded a lot of physical strength, so it's a good thing Luke is physically in shape, but so is Ahsoka, so they cancel each other out. Luke's Force abilities are much higher than Ahsoka's, but he may not be as controlled as she is at this level, nor is his understanding of the Force. Luke's been a Jedi for only 10 years, and Ahsoka for over 35 years. She's much more advanced than him, and a more precise hit will be more effective than a rampant, powerful one, like Anakin. For example, his midichlorians were far greater than Dooku's in Attack of the Clones, but he lost, simply because of inexperience. He couldn't control his powers. They were being emitted like pollution, much of it going to waste, instead of being focused and efficiently used. I'd say Anakin was effectively using maybe 20% of his full powers against Dooku in Attack of the Clones. He just didn't know how to properly focus them. He just wasn't experienced or precise enough yet, at least compared to his potential here. Luke and Ahsoka were very similar with their psychology, both super headstrong and very loyal to the Force. They never put their emotions over their abilities as much as other users, and I feel Ahsoka probably is more in control of her emotions than Luke is, even at this point. Now remember, Luke had Anakin's blood and genetics. Emotions run strong in the Skywalker family, and it often leads them to act before they think. This can run into problems, and most of all, the dark side. If Luke and Ahsoka fought, Ahsoka would really need to keep the speed up. So as Luke is focusing all of his powers on blocking her attacks and anticipating her next move, and less focus on the Force as he beats her there, she'll be able to take advantage of that. Ahsoka's moves will be more structured and experienced, more fluid, almost we could say. However, Luke is naturally much more gifted than she is, being a Skywalker. Nobody comes close to the potential of a Skywalker. I mean, look, they're exuding main character energy, it's just the way it is. While Luke is stronger, I believe if Ahsoka fought him, she would be able to keep Luke's force abilities at bay by focusing on her striking and wielding. This would force Luke to look for another way to throw her into a weak position, as his saber techniques wouldn't be enough. She's too fast and experienced. If Luke trained for another 5 years, I believe his proficiency and overall abilities would excel him into what someone could achieve in maybe 20 years, and that's only if they have his range of potential. Luke in this case would know he was bested in a fight, so he would probably resort to jumping to the high ground, or in other words, creating distance between himself and his opponent, just like he did against Vader and Jedi. And from there, he would most likely use the Force to either throw his lightsaber or hurl boulders and objects at Ahsoka, eventually throwing her off guard as best as he could with his powers in the Force, which rivaled hers, if not they were much better than hers. And that would be his moment to strike, to which he would have been thrown off balance and in a very vulnerable position to be killed. Now, Luke could do this, but it would take a lot of effort and a lot of luck against such a formidable and highly experienced opponent. That being said, she knows how Anakin fights, and while she couldn't beat Anakin, she could be privy to these types of attacks. And also, she's been fighting for much longer than Luke, so she's experienced many different types of fighters. I believe Ahsoka would beat Luke if it were a caged match in a lightsaber to lightsaber combat. However, in an open world setting where anything goes and Luke can jump around and hurl objects and stones, I think Luke wins. And of course, all of that being said, I don't believe they would ever fight, but it would be interesting to see some sort of a training sequence between the two of them where Ahsoka is teaching him some things about the Force perhaps and lightsaber combat, and he's teaching her about other things that he's mastered that perhaps she still has some trouble with. Possibly like Anakin's gift, which was seeing into the future. Perhaps he knows a way that she doesn't. And at the end of the day, it's really just based on who's writing the story. But in my opinion, I think if they were to fight, Luke would be bested in lightsaber combat. But when it came to the Force and overall, I think he would win. It's kind of like in a boxing match, I think Ahsoka would win, and in MMA, I think Luke would win. If the Force and all of that could be put into play. I can't wait to see Luke and Ahsoka meet someday. I think that would be probably the coolest thing. They could be swapping stories about, Anakin Skywalker, and Ahsoka could tell him about Anakin during the Clone Wars and, the time of the prequels when Luke wasn't even born yet. And she could tell him of his mother, because he doesn't really know anything about Padme. That'd be really emotional. It'd be really cool to see. And of course, Luke could ease Ahsoka's mind by telling her that Anakin was redeemed in the end. That Vader didn't just die. He wasn't just trapped in Vader's body in the end. He actually became a Force ghost, and maybe he'll call upon Anakin to be able to speak to Ahsoka and see her once again. I think that would be really cool. Let me know what you guys think of the outcome of this fantasy battle fight if these two were to go head-to-head against each other. I love you all. Thanks for checking this video out, and I will catch you in the next one. Until then, remember, the Force will be with you always.